Hello my friends, my name is Artur and I am an Estonian soldier. And I'm wearing a weird fish shirt. As a soldier, I shouldn't be wearing this stuff. I should be wearing my uniform back there, but I don't want to, because PTSD, man. No, I really am not allowed anymore in the civilian world. If I'm not in the training exercise, I cannot really wear it. I want to tell you a story. I already told it. My grandfather was born in the year 1945 and Second World War had ended and he was actually deported to Siberia when he was 4 years old in 1949. As a 4-year-old kid, he was like, go to Siberia and survive on your own. And he did. But it's connected to the story because today we're talking about the Second World War, which it just ended when my grandfather was born. This shows you how screwed up Estonian people are. The Second World War ends, things are supposed to go up, and then you get deported to Siberia. Yippee-ki-yay, man! Free trip to Siberia! Woo! Not great. But today we are watching the Battle of IWO JIMA. I know there's like a movie about it. I know I've heard the name. Don't know much else about the battle. But we have an armchair historian for it. I like the channel really much. I hope you do also. Let's jump right into it.
Hi, I'm Griffin Johnson, the armchair historian.
Hello.
Today's video, the Battle of IWO JIMA. An F-4U Corsair soars overhead at 400 miles an hour, prompting a young Marine to glance up from his LCVP. Everywhere around him, hundreds of landing craft plow through the waves toward a black sand beach. To his left, the 554-foot Mount Suribachi towers over the desolate island, which for the past 3 days has been subjected to an intense bombardment. One of the many battleships behind him fires a salvo.
Ooh. Hey, you know what I've heard? I've seen a photo of that battleships firing all of the guns at once to one side, and the guns were supposed to be so powerful that the ship actually moves to the side. And if the guns are really powerful, the ship can actually capsize or just, you know, go to the side and tilt and break or something. Is that true? I've seen the photos. I mean, look at the photos, they're really cool. Look at this photo.
As the brilliant pyrotechnics display continues, the Marine wonders if anything can survive the firepower of that magnitude.
Oh
and
yeah.
fears anything that might.
Japanese can survive it. I mean, they will go underground in the tunnels and it's really hard to flush them out from there.
By 1944, American forces had penetrated Japan's outer line of defense in the Pacific and were working their way towards the inner line. Following the capture of the Marianas in August, the Joint Chiefs of Staff decided that the next target would be the island of Iwo Jima. Capturing it would give the American B-29 fleet bombing Japan emergency landing strips. But even more importantly, the island could be used as a staging area for the anticipated invasion of Japan.
The invasion of Japan. Of course, it didn't come down to it because of the 2 nuclear bombs dropped, but I heard somewhere that they really didn't want to invade the main island because invading Okinawa and invading Iwo Jima took so much life and so much casualties that they saw how ferociously Japanese fight. And having so many soldiers on the main island, entire population militarized and loyal to their emperor, they would rather die than surrender. And fighting against the populace like that, it's sending your men to die. Even if you win, you will lose a lot of men, and they didn't want to really do that. So the nuclear bombs, in a way, saved lives. It's a really horrible way to put it, I know. But I think much more people would have died if they would have actually invaded the main islands. Because knowing the Japanese, they don't surrender. If they run out of bullets, they will charge with their bayonets against machine guns. That's what they are. So a lot less people died with the 2 nuclear bombs than with the invasion of... Okay, this is too bad. I'm sorry. I couldn't say this. I couldn't say that the nuclear bomb saved lives. I never said it. Forget about it. Forget about it.
In March of 1944, even before the loss of the Marianas, the Japanese had begun fortifying IWO JIMA. The commander of the island's garrison, Lieutenant General Tadamichi Suribachi, was similarly aware that an American victory at Iwo Jima was inevitable. Nonetheless, he resolved to make their victory as costly as possible, defiantly proclaiming, "We are here to defend this island to the limit of our strength. If our positions are overrun, we will take bombs and grenades and throw ourselves under the tanks to destroy them.
How can you... wait?
Live the Emperor."
Long live the Emperor. How can you fight against this fanaticism? We will strap bombs around ourselves and jump to the tank. You cannot fight this. This is crazy. Even if you win, you will lose, because these people don't care if they live or die. They just want to die for their emperor. They want to die in battle. You're giving them what they want. You cannot really win, so you have to use something else. The nuclear weapons.
Knowing the vulnerability of conventional shore fortifications, Suribachi prepared a layered defense consisting of strong, mutually supporting positions. Additionally, he ordered the construction of a complex system of caves, bunkers, and tunnels. These subterranean installations ranged in size from small dugouts intended to accommodate a squad of men to huge caverns capable of holding a battalion, and were virtually impervious to any form of bombardment. The Japanese were vastly outnumbered and outgunned, and this required them to be especially resourceful in their usage of heavy weapons, namely their 23 Type 95 tanks and 70 anti-tank guns, which they placed in well-fortified positions. After almost a year of preparation, the Japanese garrison had grown to 21,000 men and more than 19...
I mean, that's a small island. 21,000 men for this size of an island is extremely militarized. Extremely. Every inch has a Japanese soldier on it or near it. They are really, really maniac, or how do you say this? Everything for the war effort, everything for the emperor, you know, for saving the honor of your family. It's just a different mindset. I wouldn't want to fight these guys, ever, the Japanese. I wouldn't want to fight Americans also, don't get me wrong. But Japanese, they're different animals, man. They just want to die for their emperor back then. Alright, a little change of topic. If you noticed, I didn't really do the Patreons in the intro, guys. You guys didn't want me to drag out the intros that much. I'm trying to listen to your advice. I'm doing the patrons now. I cannot cut them out because they are so important to me. They actually allow me to live the life that I'm living, making YouTube videos for you. I love this job. I hope you make me able to do this more. I have 3 new Patreon names, so we can all be thankful for them. Ats Road. This name will sound weird to you, but for me, no, because Raud is metal or iron in Estonian. Ats is just a very Estonian name. Ats Raud is, I think, the 3rd Estonian ever to support me on Patreon. So, aitäh, Ats, hästi paned. That means, way to go, Ats. We have Rob Grey. Why not Rob Blue, or Rob Black, or Rob White? If you put 3 of those Robs together, you get the blue, black, or white flag. Yeah, thank you, Rob, for becoming a patron. And finally, we have a name I've said many times before. I think you have gotten the cups, or maybe you haven't, but you have been a patron before, so this is a re-sub, I think. Joseph Eric Poulter. I have said your names, I think, 3 times on this channel, so you're truly a good fan. Thank you for supporting the channel again and again. I value people like you. I value people who are loyal and who really support their creators. Thank you. If you feel generous, Patreon link is in the description below.
15,000 yards of tunnel had been excavated. During the planning of his defense, Suribachi had also developed an innovative battle plan which would allow the Americans to land unopposed. When they had advanced about 550 yards inland, the Japanese would deliver concentrated fire from automatic weapons and artillery positions across the island. Unlike Suribachi's tactics, the American invasion plan was conventional and straightforward. Overseen by Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, capturing the island was the responsibility of the 80,000-strong 5th Amphibious Corps, commanded by Major General Harry Schmidt, and consisting of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Marine Divisions. The 4th and 5th Divisions would land side by side on the eastern beaches, with the 4th on the right and the 5th on the left. Then they would pivot right and advance toward the northern end of Iwo Jima. Simultaneously, a regiment from the 5th Marines would capture Mount Suribachi. Meanwhile, the 3rd would stay in reserve. To soften up the island, General Schmidt requested a 10-day naval bombardment. However, he only received 3.
He only received 3, plus the Japanese had a massive tunnel, so they were not damaged at all, which the Americans didn't account for, I think.
All went well for the Americans. They would capture the island quickly. But as the old adage goes, no plan survives contact with the enemy, and especially not
that's a
this
good saying.
enemy.
Yeah.
At 8:59 a.m. on February 19th, 1945, the first wave of Marines waded ashore. In accordance with Kuribayashi's plan, the Japanese held their fire, leading some Marines to mistakenly think that the bombardment had destroyed them. Over the next hour, more men and materiel landed on the...
So the Japanese wanted as many Americans as possible in the kill zone, so they can say maximize the damage. That's really genius, actually. It's also suicidal, because they will all die on that island, the Japanese I mean, but they just wanted to watch the world burn. I'm quoting Batman movies.
The beach until it was crowded. Shortly after 10 a.m., the island exploded into fire and chaos. Derek Wright, author of Iwo Jima 1945, states that everything from machine guns and mortars to heavy artillery opened up on the beach, quickly transforming it into a nightmarish bloodbath.
Oh god.
Pinned down by this murderous fire, the Marines frantically entrenched themselves in the soft volcanic ash, which provided rudimentary cover. The ash was slippery and difficult to traverse, and so they could only inch their way forward until the Seabees, also known as the Naval Construction Battalions, bulldozed makeshift roads through the sand. Even after reaching the Japanese defenses, the task of securing them was complicated by Kuribayashi's tunnel network, which allowed the garrison to reoccupy their positions even after the Marines had cleared them. By 11:30 a.m., a contingent had reached Airfield No. 1 in the interior of Iwo Jima, while another group of Marines cut across the narrowest part of the island, reaching the opposite shore. However, the 25th Marine Regiment of the 4th Marine Division encountered heavy opposition on the right flank near a strong point dubbed the Quarry. Wright notes that, of the 900 men that landed in the morning, only 150 were left in fighting condition by nightfall, a staggering 83.3% casualty rate.
Holy
the
hell.
land battle was not even a day old, and already it was becoming an exceptionally vicious fight. Nonetheless, some 30,000...
I mean, this is one of the first contact from Americans and Japanese soldiers. One of the first contacts that they actually fight on land, face to face. And now Americans get to know what is the Japanese soldier, how fanatical he is, how much he's ready to die for his emperor.
Marines managed to land by dark, and thousands more would eventually be committed to battle. Over the next week, they slowly advanced inland, capturing one of the island's airfields and establishing a foothold on the other. Since firearms were not very useful at flushing out fortified enemy positions, the Marines resorted to using flamethrowers and grenades. To replace units that had sustained high casualties, elements of the 3rd Marine Division were pulled from the rear and thrown into the fight. General Kuribayashi had expressly forbidden any banzai charges, deeming them futile. Instead,
forbidden banzai charges. Wow. I thought Japanese are all about banzai charges. You know, dying in battle, heroically attacking the enemy with your bayonet, dying with a machine gun fire. He forbade them. This is new.
The Japanese employed guerrilla and infiltration tactics in order to chip away at the Americans and prevent them from operating safely. Because of this more passive approach, Japanese casualties remained relatively low and morale remained relatively high.
Whoa.
First Lieutenant Sugihara Kinryu kept a meticulous diary during the early stages of the battle, and on February 22nd he wrote, "This is a winning battle. Be persistent. We must definitely build the foundation of victory for this greater East Asia war." By February 23rd, the Marines had isolated Mount Suribachi, and small groups of men began making their way toward the summit. Although the mountain was still largely occupied by the Japanese, most chose to stay in the tunnel network where they were eventually killed. As a result, resistance was relatively light during the ascent. After reaching the summit, they planted an American flag, the first to fly on Japanese soil. Observing from a ship offshore, Marine Alvin Orsland recounted that the top brass told us it would be all over in 72 hours. Sure enough, at 10:35 a.m. on the 23rd, we saw Old Glory being raised on the highest point, Mount Suribachi. That's it, we thought. We've done it.
Oh no, oh no.
This triumphant
Only
sentiment,
half of
the
that.
fighting was far from over. There were still thousands of Japanese soldiers entrenched on the northern half of the island, none of whom were likely to surrender. Between February 25th and March 10th, the Marines fought their way through fierce resistance, taking nearly 12,000 casualties in the process.
12,000?
On the left flank, the 5th Division attacked a...
This is a small island. It's not supposed to be 12,000 casualties. This is supposed to be you bomb it 10 days. Then you take out the remainder of army that stays there because you bomb everything to the ground. But the bombardment didn't do anything. Plus, Japanese soldiers are a different kind of animal. They don't surrender. They will fight till the end. There's so many factors here that make this small island a killing field.
Series of ridges and hills. Concurrently, the 3rd advanced in the center, and on the right flank, the 4th stormed a part of the island they called the Meat Grinder. With the Americans closing in, one Japanese commander launched a final banzai attack. On the evening of March 8th, 800 Japanese soldiers charged the American lines. Although it was doomed to futility, the Japanese still managed to inflict 347 casualties at the cost of 784 dead.
Oof, nah. Banzai doesn't do the
As the battle
thing.
entered mid-March, the Marines closed in on the north and southeast corners of the island. However, before the island could be completely secured, about 300 Japanese soldiers scattered around the island's many tunnels gathered near Airfield No. 2 and launched a sneak attack on the night of March 25th. Allegedly,
The island is taken, the remainder of troops gather together, and instead of, oh, let's surrender, we're wounded and gone and it's the last of us, they decided to make a suicidal attack. What? Crazy Japanese.
led by Kuribayashi himself. They surprised the Americans camping in the area, bayoneting some of them in their sleep. Hand-to-hand fighting lasted for 90 minutes before they were finally wiped out.
90 minutes. Crazy. Whoa.
After 36 days of fighting, the island was declared secure
36?
on the morning of March 26.
1 month.
But victory at Iwo Jima came at a steep price. The United States sustained more than 28,000 casualties, which accounted for a third of all suffered by the Marines in the Second World War. The Japanese, on the other hand, lost essentially their entire 21,000-man garrison. The battle over this small, seemingly insignificant island was one of the costliest in American history, and consequently has generated a large and enduring controversy over its strategic value.
Whoa, that is crazy. A small island like that, and Americans lose over 20,000 troops taking that island, thinking it would take 72 hours. It takes 1 month to clear the island of fanatical Japanese soldiers who just don't die. They are disbanded, they will gather again and attack again. Japanese were horribly brainwashed to want to die for their emperor and for their honor. But yeah, this made fighting them really impossible. Like fighting the extremists, Muslims in the Middle East. Not all Muslims are like that, but some extremists, factions, like the ISIS army perhaps, they want to die for their faith. It's the jihad, the holy war. It's the greatest honor to die for Allah. That means by killing them, you're granting them their greatest wish. How do you fight such an insane army? Well, Americans did. They bombed the hell out of them. Then they won. The coalition won against ISIS. But still, it comes at a price. And we are here to discover all about this. I hope in the future also. I hope you like these videos. We can make more. I would love to watch more videos about Second World War, history of battles. Just put the comment and I'll read it and I'll watch the video. My friends, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel on Patreon. You guys make my life possible. I'm very grateful. Until my next video, stay cool and bye bye.